Hi, I'm David Oman. I'm the producer of the movie House at the End of the Drive. I'm also the creator of the story and also one of the co-writers of the movie. People have asked me what the backstory to the movie was. The backstory to this movie is my experiences living here in this house, a couple hundred feet from where the Tate house stood. In this 6 years that I've had the property, between building the house and living here, I've had a number of experiences that would at least be said that were of the paranormal endeavor. One of the inspirations, well, there were many inspirations for this film, House at the End of the Drive. The first time that I experienced something here in the house was when we were building it. About a year into the construction, when the framing was going up, I was on one of the downstairs floors walking around by myself, and I had this weird sensation like I wasn't alone. You know, that feeling when you just feel that there's a presence or somebody behind you or looking over your shoulder, and you just feel like turning around and looking, and there's no one there. Well, needless to say, that was my first run-in with the spirits that I like to refer to as the victims of the Tate massacre from 1969.
House at the End of the Drive is only a few doors away from another famous house at the end of the drive. And when I was up there, I sort of didn't want to look up that way. It's such a tragedy, the things that happened there. And we all, it's almost like not wanting to pass or to really look at a body on the street, even though people find themselves looking at it. But you don't really want to look, because it might stick to you.
Well, in 1969, the night of August 8th, technically the morning of August 9th, 1969, 5 murders occurred just down the road. Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Jay Sebring, Sharon Tate, and Stephen Parent were all brutally slaughtered at the hands of Charles Manson's family, quote unquote, his followers, Tex Watson being the leader, and the women that did these murders. One
of the most memorable experiences that I had myself took place in the middle of July 2004. Went to bed 1 in the morning. About 20 minutes later, I woke up for some unknown reason. I just woke up and I turned to my left and I looked, and there I saw a full body apparition of a gentleman dressed in a light blue leisure suit with the narrow lapel at the top, like 4 buttons, and he was just standing there with his arm outstretched, and he had his left index finger pointing out, and he just kept looking at me, and then started to turn his arm, or his torso, and point towards the direction of the driveway. He made the 3rd turn towards the driveway. He just disappeared, vanished right in front of my eyes.
August 2004, we had some ghost hunters up here and psychics, and I was actually sitting right over here while they were performing something, some kind of seance type thing. And I just felt something brush my neck. And I turned, and there was no one behind me. The closest person to me was, 8, 9, 10 feet away. So that was weird. And then we were downstairs in the lower level doing a walkthrough with some of the psychics. And they were all with their graphs and meters and all their things. And I looked up, I saw some weird blue light on the ceiling, just for an instant. And then it was gone. And then one of the psychics looked up and said, "What was that?" They saw it too.
I was standing on the 2nd level. This was my first night here. This is what caused me to come back with the camera. And my friend says, "Do you hear that?" And I'm listening, and there's a radio on, drowning a lot of stuff out, and some guy snoring, listening to the radio, and he's this very labored, heavy breathing. And he says, "Come on, you've got to hear that." And I said, "Man, I can't hear anything over that guy's snoring." He says, "That's what I'm talking about." And the moment he said that, the radio stopped, the snoring came up the center of the stairs. We both jumped back, and it sort of came at me, but it just it just stopped. But I saw him running up the stairs. I said, "Where are you going?" He says, I'm following it, it's going upstairs. And as he went up, and then all of a sudden, I heard it down at the bottom again. And it's just this, there's nothing there, but the sound is traveling.
One of the most exciting things for me was when we had the seance, because it wasn't a stupid, hokey seance. It wasn't a, a Ouija board thing. It was like a really respectful attempt to contact whatever was here, because there's obviously something here. I mean, there's been too many experiences, and during the seances when I got the most tuggings. I had my chair was being jerked, my clothes were being tugged on, and I actually heard somebody talking in my left ear. And later when we got home and watched the tape, we were able to hear things that we hadn't heard while we were in the room. I feel that the spirits of the I don't like calling them victims, but the Tate victims are here, but I also think that there's at least another presence, and that is what I call the malevolent being, because he's not part of that gang. I mean, that's the only thing that scares me, as a matter of fact, when I'm here, ever.
Nick was fascinating to have him come through the house. I've never met him before, and he's never been here before, but his experiences in the house were fascinating to see what he was picking up activity-wise.
And I've been invited over to Cielo Drive to investigate and see and feel the energy of the spirits that are here. Some of the spirits of which that have walked down the street from the Manson murders. The feeling here is very incredible. There is definitely a mixture of malevolent and benevolent energies here. Intense to say the least. The house itself is just a hotbed for activity. And in certain places in the house, I mean, the energy was just, the electromagnetic energy was so high. It was amazing. And not to describe that energy as good or bad, it's just very high energy. There were a few places in the house, such as a spiral staircase, that gave off the feeling of sort of dizzying or confusing effect. And the owner of the house did indicate there are times that he's stumbled going down those steps. So one does have to be somewhat careful as they're literally looking at the steps. At the bottom of those steps, the energy got very hot, and the meters read very high at that point. And as I looked down the hall, there was the same heat effect as looking as waves coming off hot asphalt, all the way down into a room at the end of the hall, where spirits had seemed to gone through the wall to hide. It is a male energy, and when we were in the part of the house that was sort of a storage area, and there was raw earth from the hillside there, that's where the energy was the most intense, and we were not welcome in that room, and that's where this particular entity seems to go and stay for the most part. It was not one of the murdered people. It's a different energy altogether. In fact, I didn't sense that it was associated with the murders. It is simply a malevolent energy that has been in this area for some time, and it seems to stir up things in people that create them making the wrong decision. It seems to overshadow, the theme of what went on here years ago. It's one of the highest places, whether a business or home, of activity I've ever felt. This place is just buzzing with spirits and energy.
This movie is a real kind of what would you call it? A movie of passion. I mean, the man making it, and I get swept up in that kind of thing, and I wanted to support it. I like independent films a lot because they're working on a shoestring, and you have to use your imagination rather than throwing money at everything, and it's great to do. Unless I'm acting, I'm not an actor. I'm something else, father, husband, but not an actor. So when a movie comes along, I'm ready to do it, take on a challenge. I like challenge. Ghosts, I'm a little afraid of.
Dialogue. Wait a minute. He told me his name. Henry Charles Packer. I know who killed your aunt. Let's go see what we can find out about it.
Well, fancy meeting you here.
This being my first endeavor into the producing business, I found myself constantly being thrown up with challenges left, right, and center. From the beginning of just writing the story and going out and getting people's opinions of the screenplay, that in itself was its first challenge. A very humbling experience indeed. You don't realize how bad your story is and screenplay is until you get feedback from other people. And I mean, it's tough. It's got to be the first and most difficult lesson you have to learn in being a producer and a screenwriter, is you cannot be too attached to your work. You've got to be able to take the good and the bad in criticisms, and that's really important, because if you can't separate yourself from your project and not take things personally, you will be crushed.